Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Emily Cortes. I'm an attorney and a clinical fellow at the Center for Housing Justice and Policy at Suffolk University Law School. I am a first generation college graduate and a first generation law school graduate. Before we became CHJP, our work began as the Housing Discrimination Testing Program, also known as HDTP. HDTP was founded in 2012. We provided fair housing testing evidence to the school's housing clinic. And we also provided evidence to federal and state agencies who were investigating fair housing claims. The reason why we created HDTP was because there was a lot of housing discrimination going on, but there weren't as many opportunities or resources to test that discrimination at the individual level, whether it was just for a client. But we also began to take that testing a step further. So now we do systemic-based testing, and we also do larger testing for empirical research studies. That testing is really important on the one-on-one client level. We use that as evidence in individual cases, but we can also use that testing evidence to see if discrimination is happening on a much larger scale. And we can also pinpoint specific protected classes as well. We can see if discrimination is happening to a specific race, a specific gender, or a specific population of marginalized people. For example, people who receive housing vouchers or any type of receipt of public assistance. That is a group that is widely discriminated against when they're looking for housing, even though in Massachusetts it's against the law to do that. With the development of HDTP, we were able to not only provide testing evidence, we were able to expand our outreach and expand our advocacy to involve different community members who needed the help, but also to train law students who are going to be the next generation of attorneys and are going to go out there in the world and combat this discrimination, not just housing, but employment discrimination or civil rights complaints. They're going to be equipped to use creative lawyering and use all of the resources at their disposal. And testing is just one of those things. We advance equitable access to safe housing, affordable housing, and we do this through the elimination of discrimination. What does that look like? So that includes dismantling systemic barriers at a larger scale and promoting different housing policies that are always rooted in fair housing principles. We do this through testing, we do this through enforcement, and we also do this through education, both at the law school level and at the community level. We also conduct empirical research studies. So that gives us a larger picture of discrimination that's happening, whether we're looking at discrimination based on a specific race or any other protected class. We also work to transform different housing systems that marginalized communities typically deal with. So, for example, discrimination based on familial status. That's something that's really frequently occurs in the Boston area. It could be because people don't want to rent to people with kids. But what we see in Massachusetts specifically is there's a larger issue that also ties in lead paint. We obviously don't want to rent to children if there's a risk that they could be lead poisoned, if there's lead paint that's present in the home. So a lot of landlords will avoid renting to families. However, that's against the law. It's a violation of the Fair Housing Act, and it's a violation of the Mass Fair Housing laws and the Mass Lead law. We try to educate on all different levels of housing because people may not think that lead paint can be a barrier to housing, but it can be. And it manifests in different ways. It can't just be because, children can get sick, but there's also a lot of other implications that tie in federal policy as well. A big part of what we do with our students at the clinic is we train them to become the next generation of housing advocates. We want our students to be engaged in their studies, but also in community learning and in that larger enforcement side. There's also a bigger aspect when you're dealing with the community and you're dealing with a client that is dealing with this type of housing issue that you may, as an attorney or an advocate, you may see that issue every day, but this is a really big issue for that individual client. And at the end of the day, that client may not be able to go home to their house and decompress. Putting it into the perspective of who you're helping are community members that are some of the most vulnerable, and learning how to interact with those people if you plan on being an attorney for the rest of your life. The most important thing that first-time homebuyers should know is that they are legally protected from housing discrimination throughout the entire home buying process. So if you are not a homeowner yet, you may be renting. So you're protected during the rental process, you're protected before you become a buyer, and you're protected once you buy your home and you're moving forward, whether it's dealing with real estate professionals, dealing with your mortgage loan lender. You have protections every step of the way. Those protections are given under the Federal Fair Housing Act. It's illegal for sellers, lenders, or real estate professionals to treat someone differently based on their race, their color, their national origin, their religion, their sex, whether they have a disability or not, and they cannot treat someone differently based on their familial status. So Massachusetts also protects against discrimination based on other protected classes. So all of the ones I just listed are always protected in Massachusetts and in every state in the country. But if states want to, they can add on more protections for their individual citizens. Massachusetts protects against discrimination based on someone's gender identity, their gender expression, also their ancestry and their genetic information. The receipt of public assistance is a protected class in Massachusetts as well. Marital status and military status are also protected. Some questions that we get from first-time home buyers about the process. One that I hear a lot is, how do I know if a lender is discriminating against me? Housing discrimination generally can be very hard to detect because people can be polite while they discriminate. The first step is to know your rights and to know what to look out for. So lenders must base decisions only on objective financial factors like your credit, your income, your debt to income ratio, and the amount of assets that you have. They can't base this information on personal traits like your race, your national origin, your sex. If there are two borrowers with similar financial profiles and they receive different treatment or they receive different terms in any of their loan negotiations, that can be a red flag. But a person might not always know what other people are being told. So if possible, to learn in advance, you want to familiarize yourself with different lending terms prior to introducing any of your protected class information. And you want to keep records of who you talked to, what was said, the dates on when they said it, and any other notes that you feel like may stand out to you, whether it's a comment that was made or a loan term that seems a little odd. You want to keep record of that throughout the entire home buying process. And sometimes future homeowners, they might also pick up on instances of steering as well. And that occurs when a real estate agent won't show home buyers homes in certain areas or neighborhoods, or continuously leads them to homes in one limited geographical area. This is illegal. Agents have to provide neutral factors like market data, school rating data, different crime reports, and then they have to let the buyer choose where they live. They can't always just show you homes in a certain area. They may try to package it up with a nice comment like, your family would love it here, you would love it here, this is a really good fit for you. But if you want to look at homes in different areas, you should be able to see them, even if it may be out of your budget. You know it's out of your budget. Your real estate agent knows it's out of your budget. But if there's a deeper reason why you can't be shown those homes, then it's something you want to look out for, and you want to see if you can, figure out the reason why. If someone suspects that they may have experienced housing discrimination, they can always contact our intake line. Our clinic will evaluate if we can help provide legal representation or if we can provide some type of referrals or resources to you. But another way to get involved more with our volunteer work is to become a housing discrimination tester. So testers play a really important role in helping identify whether people are being treated fairly when they search for housing. Anyone who's over the age of 18 can volunteer. It's a really good way to get involved. It's a good way to keep yourself updated and informed about fair housing laws. Overall, it helps all fair housing advocates get a better idea of what the fair housing landscape looks like. And we're not also doing testing to try to catch people. We also want to see if real estate professionals are doing what they're supposed to do. If they are, then people may be more inclined to work with that real estate agent or that real estate professional or that loan lender or whoever it may be. In Massachusetts, they can file a complaint with the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, also known as the MCAD. And the MCAD enforces both state and federal fair housing laws. You may have a claim that implicates both a federal violation and a state violation, or you may have multiple violations, one's a state and one's a federal. MCAD can handle it all. Residents who feel unsure about what happened and you don't know if it actually counts as discrimination, you can contact local organizations like CHJP or other fair housing organizations throughout Massachusetts. They can offer resources and they can help you identify whether the behavior raises any fair housing concerns or any red flags. The intake staff at agencies like MCAD and another organization is the Boston Fair Housing Commission. Their staff will be able to connect you with people and walk you through that intake process to see what happened and where you would be best referred. There's a lot of meaningful ways for Massachusetts residents to support fair housing, regardless of their background or their experience. A really good entry point is to volunteer with organizations like CHJP. You can volunteer as a housing discrimination tester, or residents can also get involved in their own communities through community education. You can do this by attending fair housing workshops. You can share different resources with your community members, connect with each other to find out different fair housing resources, stay up to date on your local ordinances as well. There's a lot of changes that happen. You can also look at other areas too outside of Massachusetts. For example, New York City has a lot of housing initiatives that are happening right now. You can look and see how housing policy is working in other areas of the country and see how the communities there are receptive to it, if it's positive or negative. And if you think it's something that would benefit Massachusetts residents or residents of your own town, then try to see if you can get some traction behind it and see if you can introduce it as an ordinance or a law in Massachusetts as well. Those who want to engage more deeply, definitely get involved with local housing coalitions, tenant associations. You can also try to help support zoning advocacy and zoning policy reform. That's a huge thing in Massachusetts too. That promotes equitable access to housing. And you can also advocate for fair housing enforcement at the municipal and the state level. Even small actions like learning how fair housing laws work or challenging biased assumptions in different community conversations, things like that can really help strengthen fair housing protections and just get the conversation going. I think the biggest thing is getting it on people's radars. If people know that there's issues and that there can be improvements made to fair housing policy, it'll get more people to talk about it. Housing affects all of us. If it's fair housing, it affects all of us. If it's the rental market, it affects us. If it's the home buyer market, it affects us all equally. So as long as people know that there are policy initiatives that need more of a voice behind them, there's already a lot of movement to help reform the housing market in general across the country. So if we can kind of pinpoint exactly how we're going to do it and where and what community members want, then we're able to get effective policy, made.